Hello everyone, this is James Hobbs, and today I'm going to be showing you how to use the Dolphin Emulator software on your PC. Now, what Dolphin allows you to do is play your Nintendo Gamecube games, or even your Wii games, in full HD on your computer, which is something that the original consoles never allowed you to do. So I'm basically going to be taking you step by step on how to set this thing all up. I'm going to cover how to get the games, how to optimize it, everything. And I know there are a few other tutorials on YouTube that show you how to do this, but they're kind of scattered and I just want to do it. So I'm going to be doing this video in parts, so if you need to jump to a specific part, I will leave those in the video, and I will have all of the links to all the software you will need in the description below. Alright, let's get started. Alright, step number one is going to be to install all of the proper software before we even install Dolphin. There are a few things that we're going to need. Number one is going to be a archiver. I would recommend WinRAR. It is free, technically. You're only supposed to use it for 40 days and then delete it because they use the honor system, but it still works even after 40 days. So you will need this. The next thing, make sure you have the current versions of DirectX 11 and C++. These are needed in order to emulate software. And after you have all of that downloaded, it is recommended to go ahead and restart your computer for those changes to take effect. Now, we actually download the Dolphin software. Again, all of those links are going to be down in the description so you can check everything. If you follow the Dolphin Emulator link, you will be taken to their homepage. And it's actually a very nice setup little website. We are interested in the download page, so you'll click on that. And then whatever version of Windows or Mac you're running, just select it. I have a 64-bit, so I would hit download. And this is really nice because it doesn't take you to some outside website to download the link. It's just right here. You simply download it, and you wait for it to download. Alright, and it's finished. So once that's done, you can drag this to your desktop. I have already done it. And if you open it up, it'll look very similar to this. You can see there's that 40-day thing. All you have to do is hit close if that comes up. But what you want to do is create a new folder, call it Dolphin, and you will extract, select desktop, and you will go find your new Dolphin folder, and you'll hit OK, and it will dump all those files into there. Then after that you will not need that, so you can delete that, get rid of it, wherever you want to do. Now, this is the actual software, and if you open that up, you will find the Dolphin EXE right there. You can create a shortcut here if you want. If you want to organize this a little bit better, you can even create a new folder, use two separate files, name one emulation software, that's where all of these files would go, and make another one for your games. I, however, like to keep all of my stuff on my desktop. It makes it look very cluttered, but I can find things easier that way. So this is how I chose to do it. But if you open up the software, the very first time you do this, you will have no games here. This does not come with any pre-installed games. These are all ones that I've gotten. And that's about it, actually, on that part. Alright, next thing is to actually get some games. And there is another link down in the description. It is going to be to coolroms.com. This is about the best place that I found to find these files. Now, one thing that is very important to point out, you can only download these ROM files if you own a physical copy of the game. You cannot go through here and just start re-downloading all the games from your childhood. If you don't have a physical copy, that's technically illegal. So, any game that you see here that I've downloaded, I still have physical copies of, and that's how we're able to do this, and it's still classified legally. Because if you own a physical copy of a game, you're actually entitled to own that game in another form, which this other form is digital. So we have the physical, then we'll have the digital. But just for example, there are all kinds of ROMs on here, and there's a lot of different emulators too, but the ones that we're interested in would be the GameCube ones, which is actually relatively new to this website. And just for example, let's just download Super Smash Bros. All you do is you'll click on the file, you'll look here, you can go down and read the comments, make sure that it's working, see what people are saying about it. Don't always believe all the comments on here because sometimes people really don't know what they're doing on here and they have very easy to fix issues. So just download the file and you will have to wait. Usually it's only like 7 or 8 seconds. This is actually how the website makes their money. And then you're able to download the file. Now, depending on the size and your internet connection, it can take some time to download these, so I will come back to you whenever this is done. Alright, Super Smash Bros. Just finished downloading. So what you'll do is you'll take this and drag it to your desktop, and then you get to wait for it to copy over, and I will be back whenever it's done. Alright, now what you will do is you will open up your WinRAR archiver, and you will take your Power ISO file, the actual ROM of the game, and just drag it to your desktop. Or if you've gone with the folder option, you can put it in your games folder. Again, I like to put everything on my desktop. And now we get to play the waiting game again. So I'll be back when this is done. Alright, now that the ROM file is actually on my desktop, I can open up my Dolphin Emulator software again. And if you already have the program open, your new game will not instantly appear there. You simply hit refresh, and there it is. And that is how you get games for the Dolphin software. Next will be how to optimize the graphics and sound of Dolphin Emulator software. So the very first thing you want to do is click on the configuration panel, and if you have a dual core or more CPU, it is definitely recommended that you check this. If you don't have a computer with more than dual core, you probably aren't going to be able to emulate any software at all on here. Surprisingly, to emulate, it takes a very powerful PC in order to do it. So if you don't even have a dual core, it probably won't even emulate very well. But all the rest of this, it should come like this already. You really don't have to mess with that very much. And that's the same thing with the interface. Some people like to change themes on here, but the only option I even have is Boomy, I think is how you pronounce that. And that's the one that's generally recommended to go ahead and leave. And that's the same with the audio. There'll be a few games where you have to mess with audio, but very rarely. Now, if you go to the Gamecube section, the one thing you will want to do, whenever you first see slot A on here, it will be marked nothing. You need to drag down and select memory card. And as far as port 1, select standard controller. This will make it to where you can actually save the games, and you'll be able to use a controller. And as far as Wii, nothing should need changing on that. And then the pass, unless you have games in some other folder somewhere, you need to make the program recognize them. You don't have to mess with that, especially if you did it the way that I did it, because it automatically detects it on the desktop. The next section you want to mess with is graphics. Now, as far as the back end, 3D9 is the basic one. If you have a more powerful PC, you can select 3D11. Some games run better on 3D11, some run better on 3D9. Again, it just kind of depends on the game. Some games do take a little bit of tweaking in all of the enhancements and everything to get it running properly. But as far as your display, you can change the resolution all the way up. And as far as your aspect ratio, you want to usually keep it on auto. And keep in mind, this is just full screen resolution, so this is whenever you go into full screen mode on the game. Now, enhancements. This is the important part if you want your games to look HD. Whenever I was first using this software, I was wondering, why my games didn't look that good. I had heard that Dolphin lets you play them in HD, but I never realized that you had to change your internal resolution. This is what will give it that HD look. If your computer is powerful enough, bump it all the way up to 4 times native. This will make everything look beautiful. You'll be amazed that you're actually playing a Gamecube game that looks this good. And that's the same with anti-aliasing and the filtering. If you have the capabilities, bump those up as high as you can. Those you kind of want to tweak and mess with. If you start experiencing lag within your game, then you might want to bump those down a little bit. As far as any of the rest of this, you can do a widescreen hack. Some games do not like it at all. So for the most part, you just want to leave those alone. That's kind of the same way with hacks too. A few games will recommend that you switch some of the EFB copies over to RAM, or there'll be some that say to disable fog. That's just what the game recommends. So that's just kind of on a step-by-step basis. And as far as advanced, unless you really know what you're doing, you don't have to mess with any of this. It's not really all that important, just to be honest. And this DSP setting we've already seen. It was over in the configuration settings. Again, you don't have to mess with this unless a specific game file tells you to. Alright, and that is optimizing the graphics and sound. Next we'll be setting up the controller. Alright, and the next step, I'm going to show you how to set up the controllers. Now, this is probably honestly the hardest part of the whole emulation software, is getting the controllers to work properly. Now, the first one I'm going to show you is the Gamecube one. So what you will do is click on GC Gamepad. No, it doesn't say Gamepad, but it says pad on there. Now, I am using a USB Logitech controller because I didn't want to shell out the money and buy a 360 controller. You can use whatever you want. You can honestly even use a mouse and keyboard on this if you would like. I've tried that before and it does not work out very well, so I would recommend that you find some form of a controller. But what you will do is you will select whatever you're using from this list. Like I said, I'm using the Logitech controller, so I will select that. And if this ever happens to you, if the screen just ever goes blank, you can hit OK or cancel, or even refresh and get out of it. Like I said, the controller software can be kind of finicky at times. But what you will do, you will left click on each of these buttons. You will assign it to a certain button on your gamepad. And obviously your main stick is going to be your main analog stick. If you remember, the C stick was used mainly to control the camera. And as far as the triggers, again, they're in these same spots, just along the top, and as well as the D-pad. I know you can't see this controller that I'm using right now, but just take my word for it. If you need to set it up a certain way, if you need to change anything, obviously this is however it's most comfortable for you. And yeah, that's about it. The GameCube one is rather easy to set up. You can have problems with the analog stick sometimes, wanting to read properly. Again, you just need to hit OK or refresh and come back into it. Sometimes it doesn't save properly. Again, just exit out of it, come back into it. It can cause a few problems and it can be kind of frustrating. But it is helpful if you want to save a profile, just in case you need to go back in, try to edit it a little bit. And that's about the easiest way to do it. And that is the GameCube one. Next is the Wiimote. If you have an actual Wiimote and your computer can recognize Bluetooth, or if you have a small Bluetooth adapter, you can use a real Wiimote on this. That's one of the cool things about this software. I do not have Bluetooth on my PC, and I usually tend to play the games that I could use with the classic controller anyway. I never really liked the whole wiggle-waggle of the Wiimote. So I'm actually going to show you how to emulate games that let you use the classic controller, like Monster Hunter Tri. Now, you may be asking yourself, whoa, how'd he get a Wii game on here? I didn't see Wii games in the selected list of ROM files. You actually basically have to jailbreak your Wii. You have to install a homebrew application on there and actually get the ROM file off of your Wii. It's very complicated. I may do a tutorial on that one day, but for right now, there are a few other websites out there. There's a great wiki how on how to do it. I'm actually going to leave that down in the description below, so that way you can follow it that way. But anyway, back to how to emulate the Wiimote. What you will do is, if you're emulating the Wiimote like I am, you will select Emulate Wiimote from the list, and then you will look over here at Extensions. Now, it'll be selected as None, but what you do is select Classic, and then Configure. And then this will basically be the same that the gamepad one. Why do I keep saying gamepad? The GameCube one was. You will go through and you can set all of it basically the exact same way. And again, your right stick is your camera movement. And you just set up everything that way. It's really easy once you once you kind of know what you're doing on here. And it's surprising how well this actually works. Like, I've played through all of Monster Hunter Tri using this. It's so simple to use, but again, it's hard to find someone that'll actually go through and explain this, so there was a lot of trial and error to it. But once you get this down, it's really, really very easy. Alright, and I think you kind of get the idea now on how to set up the classic controller on this. Now, just keep in mind, whenever you're actually in that game, make sure you select the controls to use it. Most games will pick it up automatically. There are a few that you need to tell it, hey, I'm using the classic controller on this, because the game will recognize that you're using an extension. Now, if you are using an actual Wii mode on this, you need a nunchuck. Obviously, just select that. Or if you're playing any of the other games, which I doubt you're going to be, using the guitar or drums on this. But yeah, that is how to set up a controller on this. Alright, and the next step is going to be just kind of configuring the game a little bit. What you do is you right-click on the game, you select Properties, and this is basically overriding all of your custom settings. If the box is highlighted in blue, that means that it's just going to go with whatever settings you had. If you double-click them, then this will basically override it in a way. Now, this ZTP hack, I do not need it because it is only meant for Twilight Princess. That is the only hack that you'll ever use that for. But there are certain patches that you can download. There's even some cheat codes that you can use, and pretty much all the rest of this you just don't really need. The main thing that you want it for is that. And also, if you right-click on it, you can go to the wiki of this particular game. And this will tell you kind of a few things, what you need to set up on. This will tell you, alright, well, you need to switch this setting over to this setting, or things like that. Like on the graphics, if we can see, if we disable fog, have the setting to off, because the fog is needed for the trophy bonus stage in order to be compatible. And you'll see videos down here of other people. They like to post gameplay and show you how well it's working. It'll even have the compatibility. And like I said, most games that I've tried on here, I haven't had a single one where I've had any problems. So yeah, I'll give you an example actually. I think on Twilight Princess, if we go on the wiki there was several things to do on that one. Yeah, like see, you need to switch to 3D9 on this instead of using 3D11. Switch your EFBs to textures because the mini-map will screw up. Things like that. And you can also go on the forums too. If you're having problems, you can go there, ask, or see if other people have already asked. There are some great people on the forums, and they will help you out. Alright, that is how to override the properties and find the wiki on the game. The last step is simply just to enjoy the game. What you will do, you'll double-click on the game, and I do not have a memory card, so I will select that. And this is just kind of to show you that the game is obviously working. If I were to actually select this. And like I said, as you can see, this all works out really well.
Choose your character.
Now, this may appear a little bit slower, because I am recording right now, and that does take up quite a bit. Alright, that's enough of that. Alright, and that is it, guys. That is how you download the software, get the games, play the games, configure them, do everything with Dolphin. If you guys have any questions, if you're having any problems, throw them down in the comments below. I'm no expert at this by any means, but I'll be more than happy to try to help you out. Alright guys, this has been James Hawes with the Game Yanks.